Hello, welcome to the second part of our series that we have called Life in a Nutshell. Hi, my name is Dave from the PICER Institute, an institute that dedicates itself into researching the mechanisms of life. Why can life be so difficult? Can there really be some truly effective solutions? In the first part of this series, we shared our understanding that life does have a formula designed to provide the system with excitement, so it can feel its existence. The system has devised a series of logics, calculations and programs, which we have named the mechanics of life, to generate this rising excitement, this consciousness, this feeling of being alive. So we are unknowingly enslaved to this system, and we suffer emotionally and we suffer physically. And this suffering seems to lead many people to ask the big question of life. And really, from millennium to millennium, many people in humankind seem to ask it. The question is, can we change our life? So after over 20 years of research into life and helping clients, our answer is yes, we can change our lives. And therefore, there is hope for humanity. As humanity seems headed for possible destruction, if we look at the trends of today's societies in health and societal breakdowns, life is certainly more than meets the eye. Nothing seems coincidental, and nothing seems to happen by chance. Every thought, every action, every happening in our life is meticulously orchestrated and is a conglomerate result of all the consciousness that interacts with each other and binds us to our reality. Through our comprehensive research, products, methods, and education, we sincerely hope to bring light to a new culture in showing people that human suffering, sickness, aging, and ultimately death is all directly to our thinking patterns. If a person really wants to change their lives for the better, if they want to experience more happiness and well-being, they will need assistance and guidance in identifying and addressing the origin of their ailments. This new culture can help humanity to evolve, so there will be much less hostility in the world. The disputes and conflicts between individuals, countries and nations can begin to subside and head in a more neutral and peaceful direction. Our research has distinctly shown us the significant impact each generation have on its offspring. The data we inherit will be transferred and stored in the DNA of the next generation. So the only real hope we have for our children and for future generations is to work on ourselves in minimizing our own data. We believe that minimizing this data, along with a proper education, is the only way for humanity to truly sustain its evolution. In the years 2020 and 2021 especially have shown that we're on the verge of a possible social breakdown. And so it is imminent that we can make available such knowledge to those in humanity who would like to listen, to better understand how our problematic patterns are being carried down to ourselves from the information and memories generated by our ancestors that is stored in our DNA. And most importantly, how such data that does lead to suffering and demise can be worked with and possibly be neutralized in hoping to stop its momentous drive to further inflict harm on humanity. On a more macro-social view, the conflict between humans, communities, races, religions, countries, arising out of greed, aggression, and miscommunications is a great part of the causes that affect the instability of our social economic systems, leading to inevitable upheaval, leading to strong emotional outbreaks such as anxiety, depression, and anger. Even though massive amounts of funding have been injected into the peacekeeping authorities and into medicine, the fundamental instincts of aggression, greed, and anxiety that are solely responsible for the root causes of all such instability in the world has largely been overlooked. The ego, or the basic human instinct and qualities, are inbuilt in every one of us the moment our life is conceived, and yet so little research and studies have focused on these qualities of all life forms, to probe more towards the origins and how they can play a vital role in affecting our every decision and our every action that ultimately formulates our relationships in our families, communities, societies, races, and nations. The goal of our research is to look into these inherent qualities of human nature, study the origins, examine how these qualities function and the mechanics of behavior, and most importantly, qualify and quantify their destructive forces and whether we can alter the content of such forces, and if so, how. The destruction comes in part from the massive electricity and radiation of our strong emotions that gradually destroys our bodies and of those we are closely linked to. It is such a shame that so few people are even now aware of this. So it makes our mission very important, even vital. As a human, we are constantly being bombarded by a constant harassment of distasteful relationships, uncontrollable emotional turmoil, deterioration of our body, and unpredictable bodily ailments. It is not easy to be a human, and it's not getting easier. The indicators of physical mental health are deteriorating. Even in the richest country in the world, the USA, life expectancy is going down. In the history of society, great thinkers, scientists, philosophers, and psychologists alike had been trying to find solutions that can effectively handle our everyday problems. Yet, to our dismay, usually people are scratching their heads, not knowing even how a simple headache, where does it come from? Not to mention why the DNA in our body undergoes uncontrollable transformations that eventually will lead to cancerous cells that will disable our very ability to continue our human life. Besides the typical and pronounced physical ailments most of us will never evade, why is our human body emitting chemical hormones that guide our every emotion that hinders us from being free from anger, depression, free from anxiety? The answers to these disturbances are still much at large, and the use of more and more medicines and drugs seems to bring about more and more side effects. So, we begin with a fresh and curious mind, using simple logic, common sense, trial and error, and a very unique set of skills devised by the Institute's team to view and study the complex codes emitted by our cells. They were able to decipher the commands and messages sent out by our cells and deconstruct these codes in order to understand how they affect our emotions, our psychology, and thinking patterns, which we now know are the very cause of our failing organs. Then, remarkably, they observed clients were becoming more youthful, more healthy, and more happy just by listening to our concepts and gaining a deeper understanding of themselves. This was a breakthrough for the research team, as they discovered that the education itself was a code, helping to reprogram the client's inherited thinking patterns, their inherited programs. This code of knowledge gave them a more neutral outlook on life and helped ease their discomforts. These findings also led the research team to discover a very unique technology that allows them to take these codes from the educational course and transpose them into products and services, helping people to change more quickly. So about our technology, one of the most invaluable techniques we have devised through our years of research, which can be taught and replicated, is to view or scan the messages, the codes being emitted from our DNA structure. We have successfully been able to decipher these codes. By scanning our different organs, we can decipher what logic the cells of each organ is emitting and how they work synergetically with each other, the cells and the organs working together. Extreme emotions such as anger, anxiety, and depression are highly toxic radioactive electronic data damaging our bodily functions. These findings have given us an understanding of why we have sickness and why we age and why a person's life can be so problematic. We have found the corresponding solution through identifying the root source of where the problem originated. So that's the end of part 2, and in part 3 we'll talk about our company, how it was formed, its history, and how we developed over time through our research and through trial and error, our products and solutions and services. So that's in part 3. Thanks.